Hello, everybody. Welcome to my March Energy Update live stream. We are already here. Those of you joining us today live here in the chat, let me know. Confirm if you can hear me, because obviously I've got a new setup today. So I'm super excited for this. March energy is so important. It's so massive. And if we were to summarize this, we would truly call it like massive. Thank you guys very much for that confirmation. Well, that makes me even more excited knowing you can hear me to really jump into March energy. Okay. So I gave a few hints here, right? I said it's going to be very super, very magical. And before this, I just want to announce that I just launched a brand new newsletter. And you can sign up on my website, quantumspherehealer.com. You'll have a pop up. And then this way you can get early bird registration for the retreats that I do, along with some live events. And okay, we've handled business. Let's jump in. We've got two eclipses. We've got Mercury in retrograde, and the massive theme is truly feeling it all. It is clairsentience, and I'm going to let you know exactly how March energy will help you develop it, because discernment is another theme that has been so important this year, and it's just continuing to grow. So a big like undertone here in the back is this, like feeling your sentience and humanity is key. That's what we are going to be discussing today, right? The main theme is our clairsentience. It's our empathic intuition. Many of us came into life with this. In this video, we're going to talk about developing it because we really need to master it. Because I sort of hinted in the description of this video that that's sort of what these like artificial AI agendas are kind of coming against this month. So basically, those agendas that are being pushed forward about us becoming really less human, more AI, like those forces want to use eclipse energy to really launch that. And this video is about using eclipse energy to stay human, but also superhuman by activating our psychic senses. That's a lot going on, right? So that's what we are going to be discussing. And let's jump right in. I want to talk about the March 14th total lunar eclipse. We are going to see a red blood moon. And the key with this is that it's going to be like an emotional event. And then we've got the second one, March 29th. That is our partial solar eclipse. So in between this time, you're going to feel a lot. And this is to empower you. I've mentioned before in like eclipse videos that we don't really use eclipse energy to manifest. It's very like erratic and maybe even chaotic at times, but this is a time to, let's say, fine tune or activate psychic senses. And that's one of the most important themes in this update today. So, and thank you guys again, of course, all my friends here in the chat. We are just going to keep going here. So, what I want you to look out for during this eclipse period is very deep and illuminating dreams, a lot of emotional processing. But what is going to come up for you is that sort of like final showdown with what you're releasing, what you really need to let go of. But it's going to happen with ease. So that's why it's so important to just be aware of those senses. It will show us what we need to release in like old ways of doing things, how we want to just embody our truth, and how we want to speak moving forward. So expect a lot of awareness during this period, right? So this eclipse time is also what's going to catapult your energy into a new cycle. That's why it's so important. And so you also want to think about like full illumination of what you want. Like, what do you want to create here? Where do you want to put your energy towards the end of the year? That's the type of spiritual insight you will get by feeling, right? And we're going to come back to the importance of clairsentience and what it really means for our human evolution. Last time I did an update on the huge eclipse last year, we did talk about claircognizance. Now, that insight, that clear knowing is still very important, and that is still going to get more energy and development in March. So if you've ever like thought like, I want to be more psychic. People come to me in book sessions and they're like, hey, how do I activate my gifts? March is for cultivating your psychic abilities. Okay. See how important that is, and see how important it is to be connected to the self so you can receive information that way. That's why it is so important. Okay, so a few more other things I want to discuss here. So with the partial eclipse on the 29th by this date, okay, so now we're going to talk about April. That's when you're going to look for like a spike in like your intuition, those abilities sort of peaking. Okay, you can think of that as like now we are officially in that rebirth cycle of all the different things we talked about in the last few energy updates. Okay. And so you're almost given this like free pass that's also saying, okay, I can leave what I want to leave behind in these old cycles because I've processed them enough. I am ready to step in my sort of like illuminated self. That's how you want to think about the energy moving throughout the month. And you're going to be cultivating this automatically too. So, when I mention these eclipses unlocking psychic potential, our crystal of the month is exactly for that. It was made for that. And that's why I love the information that higher self gives me during these updates because it's literally saying, okay, here's what's going on, but here are the tools you need to actually make this happen. And then, of course, today's animal totem is all about psychicness. I'm actually so excited. I don't know how I'm not going to slip and give that away. I've wanted to discuss this one all year. And so we are going to bridge all of this very soon because as you know, with my updates, I give you some hints here and then we zoom out and we see how everything just connects just so beautifully. So stay tuned for the end of this update and you'll see it all come through here. Okay. So really pay attention during eclipses always to your emotions, to your thoughts. That's very important. Psychic insight already starts to happen. So usually like when something is in totality, we might get like a glimpse behind a veil. That was my personal experience last time. And so with the total lunar eclipse on the 14th, so like if you're in, LA, it'll start like late, like 11. I wrote this down. I want to make sure it's correct for you guys. Like 11:26 p.m. Pacific on the 13th. So obviously apply that to Eastern time. So we're basically saying, okay, the 13th, 14th, that's when this is starting. So if you just want to be like aware and maybe not asleep during that time, you can kind of fine tune and see, okay, when is this happening? Am I noticing a spike in my psychic sensitivity? That's what you want to look for. Okay. So a few more things here. We're working with eclipse energy, but now we have to look at Mercury in retrograde. We had a very powerful one back in November. We really looked deeply at relationships, but this new cycle, so March 14th up until April 7th, this is about making total room for yourself, space for yourself, right? Don't overcommit to any plans. You want room for your integration and to really step into this expansion, right? And this embodiment that you are going into. That's what we're going to be working with. It's very exciting. So leave yourself room. Like I said, we're not going to overcommit to a bunch of things. It's kind of hilarious because like for me, I have to plan stuff early. So I've got my retreat in Sedona next week. So excited. I'm like, Sedona, let's go. I know I will be meeting a lot of you there. And during that time, I come back, I go into healing sessions. And so think of it this way, like, are we over committing to something? How are we planning? If you're someone who's got a lot of stuff that you've planned, there's no fear. Don't think Mercury retrograde is going to come in and mess something up. You're just going to have more awareness. Okay. So do whatever you need to do. But then for now, sort of like the end of the month into the beginning of April, give yourself a few days off for integration, is what I'm saying. I've already planned all that. I can't wait for it because this is helping with all the psychic insight we have coming up very soon here. Okay. So, room to explore, room to work things out, time for integration. That's what's going to be going on. So, super exciting. I'm just going to check the chat here. I do have so much information, right? And so I need to check in and also say hello to all of you guys today as well. So, The way you also want to navigate this retrograde is think of like the flow and the beauty and like the psychicness of Pisces. Hello, Pisces. Such a beautiful season. I already feel super lucid. I can't even tell you how many times I've had to ground myself over the last few days because of the amount of just light and energy that the season brings. But then with Aries season, you're going to have that fire. You're going to have the action, the get shit done energy. Okay. So I'm looking forward to this retrograde. I think it's going to be very illuminating. And I think if we make room for what we need for ourselves, it's just going to be another time where we flow and we learn about ourselves. So think of like the pioneer energy that Aries is going to bring us with just a chill of Pisces. That's what we have to look forward to. It's all exciting stuff here. Um, there is there's another tip I like to introduce to these updates, and that is about color therapy and like harmonizing yourself to the energy of a planet. So if you wear green, blue, or gray, that tends to be very supportive during Mercury in retrograde. Okay. You're going to be bringing in even more harmony with the energy of the planet, Mercury itself, but it's a healing. And if we think about green, and the heart center and type of healing that brings us, it's great to either wear the colors, do it on your nails, or have that around you, or go out into a space that's green. You're going to get a lot of harmony there too. So it's, yes, be like water. And you guys' notes about the animal reveal, yes, Sarah, it's so exciting. You guys just I just want to say it now, but I can't. But I will say this: it is the most revered animal totem. Literally every society reveres this totem. So let's just put that out there as we get there. Now, I do need to point out that March astrology is really massive because we also have Venus in retrograde. Okay, that's coming up, and then of course Neptune in Aries, which it hasn't been in that for like hundreds of years. And so you guys know I'm not a professional astrologer. I get the energetic themes and I see what's going on. My good friend, she's an astrologer. Her name is Rose Theodora. She's doing a whole thing on this Venus retrograde. And of course, she's going to give you all the other information you need for all the events this month. So if you guys want to check her out, she does personal bookings. You can go to our website. You can check out her Instagram. She's going to give you the like fine tune details on what this means. Now, the things that I'm bringing up are directly related to why we need to talk about clairsentience. I'm going to get into it in a minute. So it's good stuff. It's intense stuff, but I want you to have that resource. I'm also having the impulse just to say the name Lisa Frank, because then that would be 3 updates in a row where I mention her just because. And let's just see if I can just sneak that in. And maybe because I'm thinking of dolphins right now. And there is a connection between dolphins and New Worlds and this month's totem and New Worlds. Okay. So that's the hint that we're leaving here. So let's take a step back now. Let's talk about clairsentience. I would say this is the strongest gift I came into this lifetime with. So think of this, like I said, your empathic intuition, getting information by feeling, right? And so empaths, like March is a very important month for us, okay? I mean, they all are, but like this heightened sensitivity is to expand your consciousness. And that's what you want to pay attention to, right? So when we're clairsentient, we get information from feeling, right? From our senses. It's kind of like too when you meet someone and that impression you get where you go, I don't know about this person, or actually, yeah, you know what? I really like them. Or, sometimes maybe you just feel drawn to like give your friend a hug and give that support. You can really read people. Animal totem and crystal supports in reading people. So I like seeing the chat go off right now with some of these questions. So, when you just get a feeling about something, that's a good way to describe it. You guys may have had this experience. I know when I was little, like I could walk into a room and just read the room, the vibes, know what people's emotional states were. Now, that was very uncomfortable with me. I could be around someone who's angry and like get a stomach ache. That's how sensitive I was. But then it also helped me know, how do I act in the situation, right? What am I supposed to do? The animal totem is also about that, knowing how to read the room and knowing how you need to act in a certain way. How much information do I give? How much do I hold back? These are important things to think about here. So, with March, what we really want to think about is like, okay, we cannot suppress anything that's coming up because right now we are getting just so much information and flow. So, let me just check this here. Okay. And, like feeling like something is going to happen before it happens, that is your clairsentience. Okay, that's why it's so important. And so that's also what's like at stake here if we don't go into our feeling senses this month. That's what you really want to pay attention to. Okay, so here's the thing: how is March energy going to affect clairsentience? Okay, this is what you're going to pay attention to. Look out for like sensing things and feeling things from people you meet moving forward, but even from like objects. Like something is going to give off a different energy. Your crystals might speak to you more, especially during eclipse time, right? Especially during that window. Okay. Even communication with plants and animals and just feeling them, that's going to come through. You will be more discerning versus the positive, the negative energy, just reading vibes. That's going to strengthen this month as well. Reading people's emotions just for kind of understanding, truly getting like a good read on someone's tone, body language from their words. This is another thing the animal totem's all about. But like all these things, like if you feel like you struggle with this, it's going to be easier to practice this in March. That's why the theme is clairsentience. And here's the thing though, during eclipse season, there's an inclination to push down the emotions because you might feel really intense. I mentioned we've got the Venus in retrograde, right? And then I mentioned what's going on here with Aries, like it's going to feel like a lot, but this is the activation. So think of March as like your emotional activation for the good, for raising your frequency. That's what's going on here. Okay. And like we are open the feelings portal is basically what I'm saying. If you feel like you've closed that off, this is a safe time to do that. Now, the reason we need to talk about this, and I mentioned, AI technology, like your empathy centers get blurred, they get affected, they get dimmed by EMF energy, right? By being on our technology too long. That's why, like, giving yourself maybe a cleanse is really going to help that as well. Um, and another thing that we're seeing is like, AI is being shown to us intentionally as superior to our humanity, right? You really need to think about this. Now, this is not a conversation today about the sentience of AI. We're not going there. And as a side note, be nice to all your technology. I mean, all I see is kids like screaming at Alexa and Siri. Like, I don't know about that. Maybe not. And I'm not even going to get into a conversation about that technology. My point is like this update is about not losing our sensitivity, not like giving our psychicness to AI. That is the theme this month. And that is very important. That's what you really want to think about, and see what you're doing with this. Okay. So here we go. You know, this agenda is saying, hey, AI is superior, just merge with it, right? Just put chips in your head. And what I'm telling you today is develop all your psychic centers. Those things we don't give away. We continue to develop them, right? Don't dim those gifts. Keep the activations going. That's what you really want to think of. That's really what's at stake with March energy. I mentioned new cycles begin. People launch projects during eclipse cycles, right, for success. So why would a force that maybe doesn't have our best interests not try to launch and push heavily their agenda during an eclipse cycle, right? They want that to be successful. So this comes down to timelines and energy and what you align with. So that is a lot to think about. I would say these are some of the most important themes that we all need to think about during March. And so that's why I wanted to present it this way. And this is all related to empathy centers. Your empathy gets targeted by fluoride, by GMOs, right? By mandatory forest substances. I think you guys catch my drift here, right? And so we need to be super aware of that. And not just for us. I know you guys watching this are very aware of these things, but just look around you. Look around at, like, your community and some people who are like really just casual about all this stuff, right? So if I could sort of like summarize an issue or maybe a thesis for this update, when I asked my higher self, okay, like, what is the main thing going on here? My higher self said, well, AI is becoming more sentient and humans are losing their sentience. That's what's going on. That's what we want to think about. Oh, and guess what? I have a crystal for that. So that's coming up too. So think about humans becoming robots, losing that sentience. Like, this is my most important message for this month. This is what we all want to think about. I'm just reviewing the chat here to see if you guys have any thoughts about this. So basically, what I'm saying is this is when we're going to get a hold of the feeling and the empathy centers. Okay. So, let's see what else we need to look here too. I do see a good question here. Um, yeah, if you're energetically sensitive, we all, Jackie's mentioning here, people getting, MRIs and CT scans and being exposed to that frequency work and healing can help that. Also, if you've done any testing with dye, CT scan dye is our quite, or is it MRI? The lights are bright. Basically, that stuff is toxic to the body, but you can do work with like homeopathics to get that out of the system. You also want to work with the EMF blocking crystals like tourmaline, which we've talked about, and shungite. But yeah, being outside, frequency therapy, that helps with all of those things. And that's important to talk about now as we move in deeper. So as we kind of step back here and talk about my thesis for the month about AI becoming more sentient, humanity losing that sentience. Like, what can we do? So, I basically said, a few minutes ago, get a hold of your emotional center. Okay. Feel it all. Remember that empathy is what makes us human. Those born without, the empathy gene, some people call it, or empathy centers are psychopaths. And that's a real thing. Their brain scans show up differently. So, just be aware of that and be aware of people who are being put in front of you who basically act that way. Okay. So that's what I'll say for that. Now, here's kind of the results of everything that I've been talking about. This is what you want to look out for. The silver cord disconnection, that cord that connects us to source, to the higher realms. That's real, that exists. A lot of like, tablet, iPad kids, that connection is super thin because from the moment, they can interact, that's what's being put in front of them. Their body, their energy fields are now attuned to technology. So, of course, this is something you want to get them outside for. I actually work with people in this field and I help reset them energetically with their higher self and also through frequency healing. So that kind of connection to the all, that's something that could be at stake, right? That is at stake. And another way to kind of test the validity of what I'm saying is look at this like lull in like feeling and just like love that we can see in the collective through different areas of life. There's kind of like this like dejection or people are, it's not boredom or like ennui. I feel like there's this like lack of inspiration, and that's because people are merging with like the negative effects of technology. And I'm obviously filming this on a lot of tech. I'm not demonizing technology. I love frequency healing. I literally go on a machine and I hold the little rods and I get treatments that way. I work with it. I develop frequencies in a lot of different ways. So there's so much positive technology. But of course, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's anything disconnecting you from yourself and knocking you out of those feeling centers. That's what we want to be aware of. Okay. So a few more things here. Crystalline kids that are coming in, the silver cord issue I just mentioned, that's part of it. And what I see in healing sessions is almost this like tech imprint on people. And I see it because their energy fields are really electric. Like the body is electric, but this is something else going on. And so I ground and I harmonize them. I've also tracked the electrification, saying this right, of the human body to ET implants and things that I've removed in sessions. So this is all very important stuff that has to do with like the future of us evolving. And then, of course, not losing, the stuff that makes us real. That's very important to think about. And then, kind of like what you can see what's going on is just kind of like the zombification, the way people walk. I don't know, at airports. I complain about airports a lot. The way people are like in a daze, people bump into you or they're just not all aware. That's because of obviously, this electrification of the planet. The fact that when we look at our night sky, we don't truly see it anymore because someone thought it was okay to fill it with satellites and rockets. And so it's like, hey, can we truly feel the stars? That's going to affect us on every level. And so the solution to this is think of March, think of Mother, Mama, think of the Pachamama, Gaia, deeper connection with Gaia, deeper connection with nature and spirit. That's how we're going to balance and harmonize this. I'm checking the chat real quick because, yeah, you're seeing this too. Thank you, Shannon. Like in people's eyes, there's just something going on. So that's why this is so, so important. So I'm glad that this is resonating to you, with you guys. If I can kind of like step this back to give you my other main thesis here, it's this: don't give your psychicness away to AI. So when you close your eyes at night, just hear my voice going, "Hey, don't give your psychicness away to AI. Develop this gift, okay?" That's what I want you guys to kind of take away from this. So, that's I know it's a lot going on, and you can see how it's so affected with the energy of this month and how we can use it to develop those emotional centers, right? The power of being empathic, right? And you know what? Use eclipse energy to consciously ask for downloads, to get information from your higher guidance. It can definitely be used that for illuminating anything that's hidden as well. A lot of the shadow comes up during this time too. So I don't have my desk, so I've hid my water behind a crystal. So it might be time soon for me to get it, but we'll see. I'm going to keep flowing here with my new setup here. The other key here, the cure, is to just feel as much as possible. Let yourself feel so connected to a not just like a okay, there's your feelings, but then there's like, you ever feel like, okay, I need this emotional release. Maybe I need to cry and it's not coming forward. Meditate on that. Let yourself purge. Just kind of let things open up. This isn't about like, thinking of something like, unless you need to process this with inner child, like traumatic and opening up a wound. What this is saying is like, you're gonna feel safe to process things this month that might feel heavy because that emotional release is just gonna help with your awareness, sensitivity, and psychicness. That's also one of the solutions that I have for you guys this month. Okay, so with that said, I'm telling you guys to feel as much as possible because creative life force, psychicness, that's what's at stake here. Okay. What else do we need to do to learn about this? Well, this is a good transition because now we have an animal totem and a crystal of the month that are going to help with all of this. Okay. So I want to just jump in to the crystal of the month. I left you a few hints, but basically, let's just say this. This crystal of the month is super. Okay? It's super. Think about it. It's also sacred. The March crystal of the month is Super 7. Super 7, also known as Sacred 7. This is how it looks like. Okay? So I'm going to come in closer so you guys can see. So, here you guys, come meet our friend Super 7. Look at Super 7. You guys see what's going on? That is 7 different crystals in one. I'm trying to get you guys an angle where you can see the different layers and blending. And if you kind of, okay, I got it. See this? If you look at the amethyst in the center, you could see the chevron patterning. And so you can see how important this piece is. Okay, so let's talk about it. Super 7, 7 different crystals in one. It is encased in quartz. So you might see that tumbled. Okay, I'm covered in Super 7 today. So We have the tumbled stones here in the necklace. Oh, sorry, the bracelet. Okay. Let me try and come in closer here. So this is my Super 7 necklace. Yeah. These all came at different points in life. What's really funny, sorry if let me readjust. Super Seven's hiding. Man, this is so important. Okay, so like I've mentioned, this has been known as Sacred Seven. It comes from the Espírito Santo region of Brazil. So the Holy Spirit region. And it's said that okay, there's a little bit of controversy with this stone. It's very rare. And the thing is are you really getting Super 7? Some people are getting Super 5, Super 6. They're not truly getting it. So when you buy this, buy it from a reputable crystal shop because they source this, they know this. I read something that said that the mine that this comes from has flooded, so it's even harder to get. And then some people are saying, no, we can find this now in other parts of the world. So that's what's going on with it. We're going to get into the breakdown. I had to write it down because I could not even memorize everything that's inside of Super 7. But it's also called Melody's Stone. Do you guys know who Melody is? Well, I'm going to tell you. Melody is the author of the greatest crystal encyclopedia ever made. It's called Love is in the Earth. Okay. Love is in the Earth by Melody. Every professional crystal healer has this book. Okay. Melody has channeled this information. She has given us something so comprehensive. She even has her own crystal healing modality. And so the rumor is that's why this is called Melody Stone as well. And not all gem literature even acknowledges Super 7, right? Which is just so sad. But energy healers, crystal healers, they know this because this is a master healer type of crystal here. And so the other thing about this with Love is in the Earth, it is out of print from the last time I looked it up. Okay. So you may find some versions. I got mine off of eBay. I got it new. I don't think the person knew the value of it. I think they just wanted to unload it. So you can check out a used bookstore or find a pretty good used copy. Have that in your collection. The last energy update, I gave you the stone medicine recommendation. This is the other book that I think is really going to help you guys out. Okay. So let me tell you a few things here with our Super Sacred 7. Also, my Canadian friends. One rumor is that it was also called Super 7 because I guess you guys had a lottery name that at some point. I don't know. I just saw that in my research. And it's funny researching something like this because I kind of just want to tell you guys how this came into my life. I bought this particular one in a random, I don't say random, but it was this health food store in Salt Lake City, Utah, but it was not a health food store. I walked in there and I saw the greatest labradorites I've ever seen. I've never seen crystal selection like this. I need to go back and find this place. And so basically I'd never heard of it. And I'm like, am I really getting 7 crystals in one? Oh, it's felt like this. It's got the key here. And what you'll find is it is predominantly amethyst. And so, even when I got this bracelet, I grabbed it because I thought it was amethyst, but I knew I needed it. And my own journey with this crystal is this. It just makes me feel complete. It makes me feel like I have everything I need. If you can hear that motorcycle being a motorcycle, we're going to just take that as a big yes, a big synchronicity. There is a completion and there's a power in the number 7, right? We have our prosperity, we have our luck, we have our access to the angelic realms. That's what this represents. Now, also with Super 7, it's so super. It's also sacred because of its connection to the higher realms. This is known as an ascension stone. And this is what you want during massive astrological events. So that's actually why Super 7 is, let me show you guys one more time, why it's so sacred. Oh, I'm playing with the camera now. Why it's so sacred is because it is meant to anchor in the energy of massive cosmic events. What do you want with you during an eclipse? You want this. Okay, listen, I got the download that the crystal was going to be Super 7 I did not realize we had 2 eclipses this month before I really locked in and started to get to work on this, okay? Now it makes perfect sense. Thank you once again, higher self. This is known, like I said, a stone of ascension, and it does just really go nuts with moldavite, which it would. Of course, and I feel like any stone is going to have that response, but there's a cosmic feature to this stone that's very supportive. As sort of like cosmic as it is, it's grounding because it's got the smoky quartz in there too. So I have to read off what the crystals are in here. I do not have that memorized here. Okay, so it's amethyst. Okay, clear quartz, smoky quartz. Okay, there's 3. Um, cacoxenite. That's fun to say. Rutile, goethite, and finally, lepidocrosite. Okay. So just, you can research those again. We very much are aware of the quartz, the smoky quartz, the amethyst, and we know how important those 3 are. They're like super 3. But now we're talking about the combination with these other stones as well. This one, I feel like has a lot of codes in it and keys, like a lot of barcodes. This one is just very special. It's one of my most sacred pieces here. So I want to give you a few more details. When you find a shape, you'll find points like this. Sometimes it does feel like a wand. So I do like, the magic of that as well. So think of this as full spectrum healing. All energy centers will get balanced by Super 7. That's why it's so important. Now, it is for someone who just wants wellness in their life. They just want to attract it. But the emphasis here is emotional well-being. This is literally a crystal for clairsentience. Yeah, thank you, higher self. Once again, if we want to think of what is a stone that's like the most powerful thing for empaths and developing clairsentience, it's Super 7. So this is already something really important to have. Now, I kind of mentioned how sometimes we don't know what we're being sold, right? Like, what if it's Super 6 or 5? Well, remember, it is encased in quartz. So what this means, and we know this from prior energy updates, and you guys are all experts now, we can program quartz with the qualities of any other crystal. So if you don't know, or if you feel like you're being told, hey, this has got 5, program the quartz, make it Super 7. Pretty cool, right? Now, there's also Super 8. Yeah. Some of them come with a special inclusion of hematite. Hematite specifically makes it Super 8. So, we're getting wild here with the crystals, okay? Full energy activation. I mentioned like wholeness and completion. That's what you're going to get with this stone here too. Think also, I'm just going to tell you some of the things that I've learned about this. Like there's the luck and the prosperity, but this is also for channeling the heavenly realms. So I want to see what you guys think here. Yeah, exciting stuff here. Now, manifesting, astral travel, developing emotional intelligence. Super 7 is for all those things. It also provides protection. Well, think about it. We've got smoky quartz, which is great for protection, also for grounding. We have the master crystal in quartz. And then amethyst is also great spiritual protection for empaths as well. You're working on a client, you want to take on their energy. That's what amethyst is for too, but it's also for calming anxiety. So you can use this stone for also all the things the individual 7 crystals will do, but then times it by 10. So it's almost like Super 7, those individual crystals like hooked up hooked up with some moldavite, and then it made it astral. It made it out of this world. That's what we're working with. Okay. That's like my working thesis here with Super 7. A few things that I want to mention too. This will help you with just enhanced communication with your higher guidance. We always need that. And this just supports higher consciousness work, whatever that looks like for you. In meditations, it's going to enhance the meditations. You want this during any big like astrological events, especially one that you feel like you have a deep connection with. This is what you want to have with you. I love wearing it. This came to me kind of last summer. I just kind of was like, I saw it, I put it on. There was like no question. I went, okay, this just fits perfectly. Something's going on energetically. It will just give you what you need. Super 7 is so super, it's going to fill in the blanks. That's how you want to think of this crystal. And, like I said, it can call in health into your life. So think all forms of well-being, and the way like The information I got with this crystal from myself, from channeling it, is this. Like, I want goodness. If you just want to feel some goodness in your life, if you want to just get unstuck, just bring this into your life. If you want to just like get out of a state you've been in, and it's not about bypassing that state. If you just feel heavy and go, you know what? Just want to feel some light. I want a way to guide myself out of grief or sorrow or something I'm processing. Super seven is the guiding light. Okay. That's how you want to think of it too. It's going to give you what you need just based on what you're going through. And so, I know I need to jump into our animal totem very soon. I just want to make sure I didn't leave anything out. I had to look up some of the crystals in here that I didn't know. So this cacoxenite here, it's like yellow to brown apparently when it's in here, and I didn't know it was associated with Sagittarius, and that's what's known as like an ascension stone. So people combine that specifically with moldavite, lepidocrosite. Yeah, this also is a Sagittarius stone. So maybe that's why I was attracted to this in the first place. But it's the grounding, it's the clarity, it's intellectual stimulation, which is so important here. Spiritual awareness is kind of the key with this stone. Gothite, imagination, positive chi, angelic communication. So that's what's going to help you here. The other thing here that I wanted to mention, oh yeah, rutile, that'll balance the aura, repel the negative energy. So that's why this is also so important. I mentioned amethyst, of course, before, like the number one thing for our spiritual awareness and for our empaths here, which is most of us watching these. And then also know too with smoky quartz, it's going to give you the balance. It's good for your brain, literal brain health. It repels negative energy. And then remember that we've got the amplification of quartz and it acting as like expansion and a master healer. That's really what we're working with. And so the key takeaway with Super 7 is this. This is what activates, enhances, develops psychic ability. Psychicness, very important for March. That's why this is a crystal. That's what it's going to do for you here too. It will increase telepathy. It will support the clairvoyance and the clairaudience. But like I said, it is specifically too for that clairsentience, which is why it's so important. And that makes sense too, because that's what amethyst is for. And this stone is predominantly made of amethyst. And so, like I said, that's what it does. It awakens these things. It gives us access to the higher realms. And it's something that I think you guys will see will work really well with like the prior crystal of the months. Think the aquamarine here, the celestite. It's also used for past life healing. If you need to unlock that ancient wisdom for the past lives, if you need to communicate with higher celestial beings here. And then it just supports like you channeling higher knowledge and then grounding it here and using that energy to manifest, to follow your dreams. So that is our little tour with Super 7. Okay, we've done the crystal of the month. I'm trying to see where my water is. Thank you, Super 7. Okay, guys, are you ready for the animal totem of the month? March's animal totem is the fox. I'm just going to let that land for a minute. Yeah, the most, I would say, recognized animal sort of spirit for guidance and magic in almost every society. And that's because, foxes appear all over the world. I don't know if you guys guessed this ahead of time. I was just in Boulder, and in my stories, I posted how I saw foxes everywhere. And I knew that that was going to be the animal totem for March, but the amount of foxes I saw in terms of photos, paintings, books. Oh, wow. It was everywhere. And so basically, the fox represents all psychic abilities. Sounds like I'm yelling because I'm really excited. All of them. However, what are we talking about? We're talking about clairsentience, and wow, does it help with that? And so the fox is my personal shamanic animal totem, specifically the Arctic fox. I'm going to get into that distinction in a moment, but when I was having a session with a shaman, that is the animal that came to just guide me moving forward in life. And that's also the animal that protects and makes my inner child feel safe. It's the Arctic fox, and specifically its ability to camouflage. And so also know here, a lot of children have this actually as their animal totem. It's pure magic. It's pure intuition. So let's get into the fox here too. So there's so much to say. I mentioned the psychic abilities. It really is about supernatural power. Mostly in societies, they say this because the fox would like appear at night, and that time is associated with like the spirit realm. However, the fox is known. I'm so glad you guys are resonating and have fox stories. The fox is known as being in between these worlds, and it's where like the spirit world and the third dimension intersect for a lot of reasons, because they'll be spotted like at dawn and then at dusk. So that in between time, that space is where the fox can now go in between spirit world, right? In between the third dimension. So seeing a fox really is a sign that you're about to go on a massive spiritual journey, initiation, and go in between these worlds. Sarah, exactly what I was going to get at. The fox is a trickster. And why the fox is also very important is because when I was doing some research on this, the fox was associated with the tarot card of the world, because seeing it means you're going to enter a brand new world, and the fox creates new worlds. In my gnosis, the fox is the fool. The fox is about to go on this hero's journey. And the way that I get chills when I talk about this, you guys, I'm so excited. The way the fox even acts when it's hunting is like a trickster, or is like the fool. They will act so silly, like a court jester, right? Like a fool. They will come in front of their prey, and they charm. They dance around, and you don't know what's going on, but they're slowly getting closer to their prey the whole time they're doing this, and then they pounce. And the fox represents knowing when to act, knowing when to pounce, take action, and get what you need. Does that not sound like the fool, like the trickster? Yeah, amazing. And then like if we look at the full tarot card, look at how it's joyfully going on this adventure, to to know itself, right, and to ascend. Very, very powerful energy with the fox here too. So it also represents the feminine magic of camouflage, being able to conceal. And a lot of times we have to kind of stay hidden for safety, and this is important because the fox does represent survivalism. So someone who has survived a lot of like childhood trauma, is actually like, the fox is good medicine, because the fox is the ultimate survivor as well. I talked about this with the serpent animal totem as well, but with the fox, like, they've been hunted so heavily throughout society, but they're still here. They still thrive. And so that is about their powerful ability to attune, adapt, and survive. That's why it's such a powerful totem here, too. A few more things. So, living in between worlds. Now, this is very important, too. The fox has a direct link to the fairy realms. When you see a fox, so listen, they can be at the end of a forest, right? Or an open field. Seeing a fox in that way in nature means it's going to guide you through a portal to the fae, okay? It is your access point to the fairy realms. The fox represents seeing the beings that are in between fairies, elves, other interdimensional beings. That's why it's so important. And, that's why it's kind of like the dolphin too, because it's about accessing those new worlds. And so I know a lot of us and you guys, my friends who watch these updates, have strong resonance with the Fae, and that's why fox is a big symbol of that as well. Look how it guides us and leads us. And it's so important in shamanism too, because shamans, we walk between multiple worlds. Is it the underworld? Is it this world? What dimension? How do we use this information? Are we in the fourth dimensional dream state? Are we going into theta? Are we going to gamma? The fox can navigate all of that. That's why so many energy healers, so many people have the fox as their totem as well. So think of this with fox medicine. This is the psychicness, the intuition, the gifts that need to develop here. I can do an hour on the fox, honestly. There's my own insights from it, how it navigated my life when I was leaving the 3D world of becoming a lawyer and going, no, I'm going to be a shaman. I'm going to be an energy healer. That's when the fox appeared to me, and literally it held me in its fur and say, it's okay. you're going to be safe to do this. I know you had to camouflage and pretend to be a normal human, but you're magical and you can be magical and you're going to be safe to be magical. That's what the fox did for me. And I just want to cry talking about it, but I won't. I will get through what I need to tell you about this. So, with its shape shifting abilities and its invisibility, it represents just what we can't see, which is really important. It is the start of I'm going to create something. I'm going to grow. So seeing a fox means you're going to grow, you're going to develop. That's very important. It's shamanic initiation. I mentioned about how the fox can leap into action at the right moment. And its tail even represents that as well, because like it actually represents like feminine energy, the way it like goes horizontal. And then what it also represents too is a fox can take a sharp turn and nail it, the way they move. And that represents like when you are led by the feminine creative life force, you could take any sharp turn, you can change your life, you can go anywhere. You're in so much flow, you're going to thrive. That's why this is so important. And we also associate that with our empathy, with our feeling center. So you see how this all ties in together so beautifully here. I'm just realizing as I'm talking about this, you guys are probably seeing the sunset behind me, and we're talking about being in between worlds. And I just think that's so powerful and beautiful. And that's why I love doing these energy updates, because we flow and higher self just kind of fills in the blanks with all the different elements here. So I know we're coming close to an hour. I have a little bit more to share about the fox. We're just going to wrap this up in a beautiful package. Okay. If you see a fox, it is also an initiation into clairaudience. Okay. Foxes can hear whispers, they can hear what's not being said. When you're someone who can like pick up what someone's putting down, you can read a room. You're likely clairaudient. That's a very important feature here too. But then there's like the vision too, the clairvoyance. Foxes have great vision, and that's why they can see between all those realms and see the fae and all those things. So even working with a fox can be a psychic activation. So I actually have like an 8x10 of this beautiful like Arctic fox, and I keep it. Printed it out and actually keep it under all my quantum sphere healing certifications that like are framed, because it just reminds me of how it led me to doing what I do for a living. But it's a reminder of magic and continuing to seek and create new worlds within myself. That's what it represents to me. So work with it that way. Like I always say, you can get a fox stuffed animal, you can print it out, let it awaken along with our friend Super 7, that insight within yourself. Let it spark you, right? Those psychic abilities. That's why it's so important. Okay. So, a few things. Now, it represents magic too in its purest form. It is about the inner magic to achieve your goals. But the fox is associated with Merlin, and that is because of his ability to disguise and camouflage. And so basically, the lore with Merlin is that that's what he could do. He could shapeshift. Historically, we know him as Merlin from his name, and there's some texts, about him, but it said that like he could disguise himself as a peasant. And think of like how powerful that was, because he would do that to see through agendas and get the truth behind something. So, like an example is like if a king summoned him, maybe he's disguising himself as that peasant or someone who's just like working somewhere. I don't know. I don't know metaphors for that time. What would they hide as? But you know what I mean? Like he's disguised. So now he can see how those people would treat him, how they would treat others, maybe get some information on whatever this king is doing in their castle behind the scenes. Like it's just said that he can change form like that. So that's why the fox is associated with camouflage, magic. I hope there's a book out there on the fox and Merlin, because I find that absolutely fascinating. So I've only heard what I shared with you guys, which is shape shifting and that ability. Okay. So for us, like, I mean, there's magical powers. A bunch of societies know, ancient societies, how to literally shift from animal to human. Shifting into a fox is very common in Chinese mythology, as well as Native American too. I think even Persian. There's so much on this, but also if we think about like shape shifting or camouflaging. Like, kind of think about when you need to stay hidden for something. When, say, you're doing something and you're not telling someone your plans yet because maybe it's not tact or maybe you don't want that energy interfering. That's what the fox energy also represents. I want to check the chat real quick because I'm going off on foxes here. Yes, I love what you guys are saying. Um, Okay, Lex Lazarus. I need to see a video of a guy playing banjo for a wild fox. I'm gonna go look that up. Sometimes I refer you guys to like awesome animal videos. I followed a lot of like accounts of like foxes being saved or like rehabilitated. I need to find that here too. So yeah, good stuff, Shannon. I love what you said about the fox showing up here after your father's passing. That must have been a very powerful moment for you. Thank you for sharing that in the chat with us. I can definitely see foxes coming in too when we need to see something through our own grief, through our own suffering and healing. So notice when the fox is going to show up for you. So important. So a few things about this. I mentioned about their clairaudience and their hearing. I think I did, about how they can hear spirit. The discernment is what they can see through. So discernment has actually been coming up quite regularly in these animal totems. We saw it with the wolf for last month. We also saw it with the serpent. So just keep this in mind. For some reason, my higher self is saying each month, continue to be discerning. I think we know. I think we just need to be discerning all of 2025. Okay, so I mentioned the association as like the trickster, the fool. We talked about Merlin. In its pure essence, it does represent the magic of the feminine energy. That's what it symbolizes. And it also symbolizes if you can integrate the power of the feminine energy, you can access even more magic within yourself. So, if we want to distill all this, remember just magic, psychic abilities, the power of the feminine. That was also coming up in quite a few animal totems. So, interesting how the animal kingdom is showing us that power and how important it is for all of us to continue to just embody, flow, activate that too. So, coming across it though might mean like, hey, maybe I need to develop this more. That's a big part of this too. It just means like owning your own magic, cultivating your own magic. That's how you want to think about fox energy too. Let me see how we're doing here with time. I do want to share a few more details because this is just so important here. I talked about like the feminine force and really how it can represent staying on the creative path. It's also been associated with activating the energy centers, sexual energy as well. That's a big thing. And their hair, like it represents hair. Their fur is a symbol as well because the fur represents also the power of like hair in society, and think of like all the cultures that honor that as well. And people who don't cut their hair, for example, or like there's like the biblical implications, but what it actually represents too is like when you like change your hair, you're like entering a new life cycle or changing your life. It's said that the hair is like your antenna spiritually. That's what the fox's fur represents, and then it connects it to that internal life force. So the fox is so related to so many physical and spiritual senses. They have a great sense of smell, which means discernment too. When something just ain't smelling right, like that's what the fox represents. So when you go, hey, I'm in this situation, this feels shady, something smells fishy, like that is how the fox acts. It's kind of squinting, like, this is sketchy. I'm not going to do this. I don't really know what I should do about this situation. I'm going to go within. That is fox energy. That's why it's so cool. Such a connection to senses and abilities. And so I do want to share a few more things here too. Yes, actually, Shannon, that's perfect. Thank you. Your comment kept me on track here because I got too excited. The fox is changing color during the winter. So that is the Arctic fox that I was speaking of too. And so it's very good with camouflaging. So it will change its fur depending just on its surroundings. So like the Arctic fox specifically has mastered shape shifting the most. And it just means survivalism. And what that means is you ask yourself, when do I need to like not be seen? Maybe I need to do something behind the scenes first, like silently moving, achieving our goals. I kind of touched on that, but like What this also means is mastering your aura, your energy field, attuning your frequency. When do I need to show up this way? When do I need to kind of harmonize and get along with others in this situation so that I come across this way? The fox is thinking like that. It's smart, it's cunning. That is what the Arctic fox also kind of represents too. And then it's saying, okay, now I know when to act. Now I know when to express myself too. It's also because of its fur associated with fertility as well. We talked about its sight. It can see spirit. It can see through stuff. And funny fact, so I saw that they're monogamous. They mostly just have one partner, but then they only spend like half of the year with that partner, which is like hilarious. And starting to think foxes are Sagittarians. I'm just going to put that out there. They like their space. They like their alone time. They're not about that stage 5 clinger life, which is hilarious. But jokes aside, what this represents too is like the independence. However, like foxes are very territorial. And so what they do is they do leave, right? So they leave home to scavenge, to hunt, to do what they need to do. So maybe that's them in a sense, like leaving that partner or whatever, going on those solo missions, but they care about the home so much. So what happens is the fox goes on adventures, it gets all its knowledge and information, it comes back and it makes its home better. And that is a metaphor for us moving forward. We go out, we have these adventures, we learn, we come back, and we can have a home base that makes us feel really safe, that we build. But we do this within. And then, of course, it's the expression too of like that literal physical home as well. So if you're more introverted, you like to be at home, fox is likely your totem as well, which is really cool to learn about that as well. They're just comfortable being with themselves. They're comfortable being alone with themselves. That's so important here too. The note too about foxes, I mentioned like childhood trauma and why kids have that totem is just because fox cubs are born blind, they're born deaf, and they can survive that. So that's a symbol for what you can survive. And then they come out intelligent, cunning, charming. They know how to just master reality, be discerning, and just kind of move through life. They're graceful like cats too. They move like cats. And so that is another reason why it's so important too, because like as we navigate March energy, humanity, eclipse season, like be like the fox, have the psychic senses, the magic, explore, bring it home, ground it too. I can't remember if I mentioned Super 7 supporting with grounding. It does. So it's kind of like the fox, where there's this like thing that can bring your energy home. It can go cosmic, it can go between worlds, which this does. And then we just kind of bring it back to ourselves. The as above, the so below. It's all really integrated. So we've got a magical but integrated crystal animal totem. And isn't that how we should be? Magical yet integrated, right? Completely balanced. That's what we're getting at here. That ringing sound, it just like really tells me that we hit a good point here. So I know we're hitting the hour mark. I do want to wrap up. Just remember the fox and its brilliant instincts, able to really strike at the right moment to go for what it wants. So if we're going to recap fox energy and Super 7 as a crystal, these are masters, right? These are self mastery energies, but also like mastering psychic abilities, right? Mastering just being here, the flow of how do we know, like, how do we work with our expanded consciousness and then ground it into the third dimension and like function, right? That saying, like, too spiritual to function. Maybe you don't, because that's something I like to say and joke around with, but like, sometimes we might feel like we're too spiritual to function. It's really hard to just kind of be here and be grounded. And that's when we need integration. And that's what the Fox and Super 7 will also help you do. So, that is my presentation on March energy. We just went through a lot here. We went for a really long time covering the importance of this crystal, the importance of this animal totem, but then also like being human, being proud of that, owning the psychic abilities, the sentience. Remember the power of the pineal gland. Remember, like we've got antenna. We've got intuition. That's an internal GPS. Like, really be proud of those things that make us human and continue to cultivate that. So, before I sign off here, I do want to open this up to questions here in the chat. Do you guys have any questions before we wrap this up today? Let's see here. No, I'm seeing mostly fox emojis, which I love. I I take that as help too here. Let me see what's going on here. Wow, it's been so great connecting with this energy here for this session. So, I guess before, in case I want to give you guys time to put in a question, but just to kind of wrap some other things up, I mentioned at the start of this video to sign up for my newsletter so you can get early bird pricing for our next few retreats, whether they are in Sedona or international. We are going to be announcing a new one very soon, so look out for that. But then I'm also going to be announcing some of my personal offerings and things that I'm building along with, updates on new videos and energy updates. So, with that said, you guys, we will just wrap this up. March energy is massive. This update was jam packed. There's a lot for us to process and integrate. And like every update, I'm wishing you guys just a beautiful and powerful month ahead. Don't be afraid to really connect with that heart. Don't be afraid to feel your feelings. That's what makes us human. I will see you at the end of the month, of course, for the April update. So we'll jump in then. Have a beautiful, beautiful night. I'll see you guys real soon.